Hello, welcome to Web of Stories. My name is Melinda, and I am here for the third time now doing my weekly wrap up. So the first time I realized I forgot a book, and I will get into what happened there. Second time I ran out of storage, so I had to delete some stuff. And now I'm here and crossing my fingers I can get through this. So I am filming this on Friday, the 29th of November. So for those of you who celebrated Thanksgiving, I hope you had a wonderful holiday. Mine was very nice. It was a little low-key. We just had Bookish Best Friend over. She comes for all our holidays because she's part of the family. I never know how many people to expect for Thanksgiving because I invite a lot of people, and whoever can make it can make it. But this one was a quiet one, and that's perfectly fine. I'm also back from my booktube viewing vacation. After I filmed I think it was my wrap up last week. Yeah, after I finished my wrap up last week, I turned my computer off and put it away, and I haven't watched it because I had a lot of cooking and cleaning to do, and I knew it wouldn't get done if I were watching booktube. So I just today got my computer out and I am back watching booktube, and I'm not going to try and catch up during that week. So if you said anything important, I missed it. Sorry. What else? Besides cooking and cleaning and eating, this week, the kids and I went to see Wicked. Oh, go see Wicked. Go. Just go. Go see Wicked. It is fan-freaking-tastic. I have a little bit of a strained relationship with the musical Wicked. So I am a huge Wizard of Oz fan. Like, I've been obsessed with it since I was a little girl. When I got married, I walked down the aisle to Over the Rainbow. True story. And I read Gregory Maguire's book, Wicked, when it came out a long time ago. I can't even remember. I think that was in the 90s when it came out, and I read it right when it came out and loved it. And then when I saw the musical, the first time it came through Portland, so that was probably like 19, 20 years ago, hated it. Hated it. I just thought it was horrible because it wasn't like the book. And it's not like the book. I've heard this analogy, and I think this is a great analogy. Wicked, the book, is Hamlet, and Wicked, the musical, is The Lion King. I think that's very accurate. So I was snooty and I hated it. And then a few years ago, so not the most recent time it came through town because that was last month, at the time before that, my daughter wanted to go see it. And I said, okay. So I got us tickets, and I enjoyed it the second time I saw it. Mostly probably because I knew what to expect. There wasn't that shock of this is not the way it's supposed to go. I already, it was what it was. And it was a delightful way to spend an afternoon, and I enjoyed it. It didn't rock my world. It was fine. But the movie, go see the movie. It's freaking fantastic. I cried. My son cried. He didn't want to go, and he ended up crying in it. It was so good. And it is only the first half, if you didn't know that. It's only the first half of the musical. The second half comes out next year, which will be awesome. But go see this movie. Everything you've heard about it is true. So yeah, there was that. As for what's going on now, tomorrow night, there's a regional theater. I don't know if it's local theater, regional theater. I always forget what different categories are, but in our area that they do musicals, and every Christmas they do a Christmas musical, and we're going to go see this year's Christmas musical. We've gotten into that being a tradition of going to see that musical, and then if there's other shows during the year we want to see, then we'll get it. Past couple of years there hasn't been that much we wanted to see. They did Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat a few years ago, which was we did go see that, and my son loves that musical. I didn't particularly like that production of it for reasons that I just won't go into. It was like, it has one of those directors that just goes too far. But the musical itself was fun. But anyway, we're going to go see Five Golden Rings, I think is what it's called. It's different every year. So that's coming up. But as for reading, I didn't get as much reading done this week because I was cooking and cleaning. But I did finish 3 books. And the first book I finished was Sovereign by C.J. Sansom. This is the 3rd book in the Matthew Shardlake series. And this is a historical mystery, and it's set during the Tudor reign in England. And Matthew Shardlake is a barrister. He, in the first and second book, he works for Thomas Cromwell, and then he doesn't work for Thomas Cromwell because that's not a spoiler, that's history. And then in this 3rd book, he's now working for Thomas Cranmer, who was the Archbishop of Canterbury. So you always kind of know in this book where it is in time by like who Henry VIII is married to. The first book, I can't remember if he is still married to Jane Seymour or if Jane Seymour has died, but a lot of that plot involves the execution of Anne Boleyn. So I won't go too far into that. The second one, he is married to Anne of Cleves, wife number 4, and that's kind of coming to an end, which also Thomas Cromwell. So that's what's going on in that one. And then this third one, he's married to Catherine Howard, and that actually does play a part into this plot. So this is the first of the books where we actually meet Henry VIII and whoever the queen is at the time. It's set during the time that Henry VIII and Catherine, well, with Catherine Howard, just kind of took her along, were doing their progress through England. There had been a rebellion in the north of England, in York, and so this was kind of a show of strength sort of thing. And Matthew Schaller, like, he lives in London, but he has been tasked by the Archbishop of Canterbury to go up to York and be part of this progress because there's a prisoner up in York that they want to make sure gets down to the Tower alive, who was part of the rebellion, so that they can question him. And so Matthew Schaller and his trusty sidekick Barak, they go up and they do this, and people start trying to kill Matthew Schaller and what's going on, and oh my gosh, there's secrets and all this, and it's a pretty good mystery. Like it really, the plot kept me going. Lots of great local flavor. As I said, we meet Henry VIII. He's an asshole, as you would expect. We meet other people like Lady Rochford, other historical figures in this. I enjoyed it. It was a very enjoyable for me. I am a history nerd. This is my thing. So, I will say that, I kind of realized there were 2 ways the story could go. I had 2 different theories, and one of those theories was right. So maybe slightly on the predictable side, but not horribly so. I still enjoyed it. And I will continue reading on in the series. I do not know how far into history the series goes. It is a complete series, as I said, because C.J. Sansom died. So I don't think he actually completed the series. Like, there's no final book and he wrapped up the series that way. He died. And I know that he had wanted to go into the reign of Elizabeth. I don't know if the series actually goes that far. We're on wife 5 and there's still 4 more books. So I'm assuming we're going to get into Edward. It'd be cool if we got into Jane. I mean, she's not there very long, but that would be cool. And I'm guessing Mary. I don't know if we get into Elizabeth, but we'll see. But I will continue reading on. They are big books, and these books, it's like reading a ton of French book. Like, I will be reading for like an hour and enjoying my time. It's not dragging, but then I'll realize I've only gone 2%. So they are big books. I might not take another one until next year, but there you go. So the second book I finished is this one, The Man in Black by Elly Griffiths. And if you remember when I hauled this one, I said I wasn't really sure how I was going to read this because Elly Griffiths has 3 mystery series currently. She has a new one starting next year. But the 3 are the Ruth Galloway series, which I have read, and that series is complete-ish. The Harbinger Car series, which is still in process, and I'm almost caught up with it. I still have the most recent book. And then the Brighton mysteries, which I have not yet started. And there are short stories that feed into all of these series in there. And I was worried about reading the ones with the Brighton mysteries. And I was like, should I skip those? Should I just read the series and then read this? How should I do this? I ultimately decided to just read this straight through. And it worked. It was fine. It was not an issue for me with the Brighton mysteries. And it wouldn't be a problem with the Harbinger Car mysteries. I had read Ruth Galloway, so it was an issue, but if you haven't read Ruth Galloway, it would be an issue because there are stories in here that spoil the Ruth Galloway series. These stories are meant to be read after you've read Ruth Galloway, which is fine. And that's kind of what was really delightful about this. There are some that are set earlier in the series. The 2 last stories in this are set after The Last Remains, which is the last Ruth Galloway book. And the last story, which is Ruth Galloway and the Ghost of Max Mephisto, also has Harbinger Car in it. So it's a mashup. But the second to last one, The Valley of the Queens, would really spoil really goes into what happens. Well, not really, it doesn't go into what happens, but you have to know where the series ends to kind of know where you are with that one. As a fan of the Ruth Galloway series and Harbinger Car, I really enjoyed this. It was like visiting old friends. However, as looking at it just as a short story collection, maybe not the strongest, although Elly Griffiths can write a good short story. But this was probably not the purpose of this book, and that's fine. Not something I would recommend to someone who's never read Elly Griffiths before. And as I said, I do think you need to have read all of Ruth Galloway before you pick this up, or just not read the Ruth Galloway stories. So there you go. But for me, it was a fun experience. Okay, and finally, we're going to get to the one that the ALEXA has something to say, apparently. Finally, we're going to get to the one that I had forgotten to put in my spreadsheet because I think I finished it after I turned my computer off and then just now realized it wasn't on there. And this is a buddy read that I did with Michael Clark. I think we all know him. He's a great booktube viewer. He comments on a lot of our videos. And I was really excited to read this one because he is a former school librarian. And this book is That Librarian, The Fight Against Book Banning in America by Amanda Jones, who is a school librarian. And so he was able to give a lot of his insight to it. So Amanda Jones she's currently a middle school librarian in her hometown in Louisiana. And a lot of that is important, that she's a school librarian and she's in Louisiana and she's in her hometown where people know her. So she goes to a public library, like public board meeting. So it's not even her library. It's just like, she's not going as the librarian. She's going as someone who patronizes the library. She's not going in any professional capacity. And the reason she goes is there was an agenda item about like reconsidering the process to handle challenged books. And she went to talk about how the process works well, not to do it. So she's not talking about any specific book or anything like that. So she goes and she gives her speech, and at this meeting are these guys who are keyboard jockeys, shall we call them, alt-right, provocateurs, and they go after her online. And she watches as, she starts out by seeing the comments, because that's human nature to like want to see what people are saying about you, even if it is not healthy, which it was not in her case. But she's not only are these people who she's never met saying these horrible things to her about horrible books that she's pushing on children, which is not true. But then she starts seeing people that she knows in her community, people whose children she taught, jumping in on it. And that's a really horrible situation to be in. And so she did take these two people to court. That's a whole like mess of that, but it's still kind of in process. I did see, as of just the day before yesterday, I think she actually started a lawsuit against someone else who's in like New Jersey. I'm not sure of all the details, but there's someone who kind of picked up the mantle on this. So a lot of it's like that being attacked by people completely unfairly. A lot of it is about book banning and the things that are going around in book banning and what librarians are facing, which is just, you need to hug your librarian because their lives are hard, especially if you live in a red state. I live in Oregon. It's not really a huge thing here in Oregon, at least as far as I know, at least not in the area that I'm in Oregon. But yeah, so it's really awful. That was all very fascinating. And I really loved hearing Michael's viewpoint with it as being a former librarian himself. That was great. And I 100% support the message of this book, but it wasn't a perfect book for me. I do think she got really repetitive at times. And so she would just kind of cover, and that got a little tiring. I'm going to be a little vague about this, but the book it's interesting that she wrote it at this point in time. And because of that, there's kind of an unfinished feeling to it, if that makes any sense. And if you read it, you'll know why. So a lot of this is about being online abuse and everything. And that is an important issue. But then she also kind of like goes after people herself a couple times. Like there's one time where she talks about this person, and if you live in my neighborhood, my town, you know who she is, sort of thing. And I'm like, it's a little too personal for my comfort. I'm feeling a little bit like you're doing what you're accusing other people of doing. Maybe not to the level that they are, but it's still kind of in the same vein. She does go after a specific locally elected official at one point. And I think that like she could have told those stories in a more vague way, which still would have been impactful to the reader and maybe made her look a little better in a light. Maybe that's just me, but I did kind of feel a little bit like I was hearing information that I really didn't want to hear, or at least not delivered that way because of that. And so kind of a little bit of a mixed bag. I would say more positive than negative. And I think the message is really important. So I would actually recommend this book despite what I consider to be some of the drawbacks on it, because I do think it is important. But still, there you go. I did listen to it on audio, and I believe that Michael read it, I think. But I listened on audio. She narrates it herself. She does a pretty good job. She has my sense of humor, which I appreciate. And I am never living in a red state. I'll just say that. But whatever. Anyway, those are the books that I finished this week. It was, an unusual week because of the holiday. And I am hoping to get more reading done this week. So we'll see what I finish. I do have some things I'm close to finishing this week, so I will have more to talk about next week. Anyway, I will leave that for now because I might run out of memory on my phone. Who knows? I need to just get this in while I have it because it's not been a very lucky filming day for me. Anyway, like, subscribe, join my Discord, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.